Little laptop.
Oh, well, I hit start streaming, so I
So
I
here we
hope that
are.
you're ready, because if you're not ready, I already hit the stream and we're going live in like so many
Gonna see
seconds,
my little
and then people are
happy
gonna be like,
day.
"What are they talking about?" Okay, I think. Oh, Alexis, I think we're live. I think that we're
We're
live.
live.
We're live. Oh my gosh. There you go. And here's my Alexa over here. And I think that should mute it. So now it can talk all at once every time I say your name.
Excellent.
Hello, everybody. I'm Marshall, and this is
Alexis.
awesome. And we are here on That's Good Shift. And we have another good shift for you, as we always do. Again, we're always here every 2 weeks, Thursday at 4:30, and we are always going to be here to give you something insightful, something to think about, and to maybe change your perspective. We want to shift your perspective with a good shift. There you have it. How you been, Alexis?
I don't know. I'm in a really like a happy-go-lucky moment right now,
Uh
so
huh.
I'm feeling pretty good, which is ironic, but we don't need to talk about that. We do need to talk about how we get to this happy-go-lucky space, right? We want to talk about relaxation. How have you been, Marshall?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Right? Well, I want to invite all of our viewers. If you're with us, feel free to comment either on our Facebook or our YouTube. I think the YouTube is where you're going to get the instant response from us. And yes, we will answer your questions. So please feel encouraged to ask us questions and interact with us on YouTube and probably on Facebook if we get it working. And in the near future, we're going to try to upgrade our technology so this actually works way smoother. See, I'm looking here and like it's not even streaming on my Facebook. It is streaming everywhere else. Whatever. What the heck? How am I
It's
doing is what you asked though. How am I doing? And I think I'm doing pretty well. I've had a really busy week at work. However, my vacation just started. Or maybe it starts 20, 30 minutes from now. It depends on how much stress you put me through, Alexis.
that is not the intention.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm on vacation for a week or so, and yeah, I'm gonna try to relax, which is really really hard for me to do, because I'm a high strung, high anxiety individual, and I think we live in this world where we it drives people to be high strung, high anxiety. We're like literally
Yeah.
pre-programmed to be that way, and so I think the big question that we have to talk about today is how the heck do I get out from underneath that? How do I kind of escape that, kind of rise above that, or at least on the weekends, so that I can relax and recharge and not constantly being like, oh no, what's going on?
Well, I mean, probably the best place to start then is with the question like how do we actually relax like you and I? Um and I you said you're going on vacation and for a long time I had trouble relaxing on vacations, but as an adult, I've found I do a much better job relaxing.
Yeah, vacations do that to you, do they not?
Yeah. Well, and honestly, doesn't it depend on who you're with?
Oh
I mean,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, there is a component of that who you're with, right? Like if you're with certain family members, you are not going to relax. Or just
no.
certain sometimes even certain friends of
Hmm.
friends kind of a thing, it's just not going to
Yeah.
work. And
Yeah.
that's a challenge too. How do you deal with that stuff? That's a big question as well. So, yeah. So we have a lot to kind of talk about today then, don't we?
We do. Um, but like, so but then how do you relax when you're at home? Like, I mean, yeah, like vacation, people go on vacation, but I mean, you have to have some downtime when you're at home, right? Or like at least like you mentioned on the weekend.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So for me, it consists mostly of eating and you know,
That's
I
Marshall's number one thing, food.
yeah, that's no, you got it, you got it. Um, I like to play on my computer. I have a flight simulator, and I just like to take an airplane up and just fly over wherever and look at the scenery and just kind of chill that way, and that's a lot of
Relaxing.
fun. And the
Mhm.
challenge of working all the switches and the levers and the dials and all of that stuff, that's part of it. That kind of engages my brain.
Mhm.
And then, of course, at the end of it, the only sad thing is I kind of like put it away and I'm like, what did I accomplish with all of my time? What did I do? What do I have to show for this?
Oh.
Okay, so what? I flew from San Diego to San Francisco in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but big deal, right? And I'm like, actually, well, no. Time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
and that's one of the things that I think we have to get over. We make ourselves feel guilty. We sabotage our leisure by making ourselves feel guilty that we enjoyed time off. And it is something I struggle with all the time.
Yeah, so for me, I was just thinking that relaxation for me is generally creative time.
Hmm.
Um, or I mean, like, I love story. And so I like watching shows and movies. I like listening to music. And so that's kind of like a more passive
Hmm.
relaxation for me. But most of my relaxation time, I'm like, if I'm not in that passive state, it's very much active making something. And for me, it doesn't really matter what the media is. So I can do like more traditional like art stuff, or I can do like crafty things, or I've recently started doing some herbalism and like a little bit of container gardening, which is like pushing me a little bit because that's not my traditional wheelhouse. But yeah, I would say that I do something like that every day,
Hmm. Hmm.
at least a little bit. And it's also a way that I like to connect with other people. So I'll do that with my kids, I'll do that with friends, I'll do that with my husband. I mean, it's a real joy for me to be creative with other people as well as myself. So, and that could be like parallel play or it could be cooperative play. It doesn't
Hmm.
really matter to me. So that's a big part of how I relax. It's still productive. I mean, you could say that it's still productive, but I generally don't monetize any of those things.
Hmm.
Like I purposefully choose not to monetize those things because I
Hmm.
feel like that kind of takes some of the joy out and puts more pressure on it. And I'm not making things to like for some specific purpose except for the joy of making it. Like if I'm making most of the projects that I work on, yeah, they have some kind of they fit into my life in some way. Like I have a rag rug that I've been working on for probably it's an embarrassingly long time. We're not going to talk about it, but but I do. But like it's clearly just because like yeah, I wanted to have a rug and I'd rather use bits of old t-shirts and like fabric from different places in the house that were going to get thrown away and like upcycling it. So that's all to say that I think it's really important to know where relaxation is and the activities that you do and to kind of maintain boundaries around that in order to prevent yourself from feeling pressure. Because I feel like you mentioned like having anxiety about some, when you're going on vacation or whatever. And I feel like when we put pressure on ourselves, whether it's inviting external pressure or creating internal pressure where we're like, oh, I'm going to monetize this or something like that, then it changes how it feels, and it's no longer a source of joy and a source of rest and restoration, but it
Hmm.
becomes something that's like eating at us a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think those are a couple of things to think about.
And I'm the king of monetization things. But
Okay.
I do that because one of my sources of anxiety is finances. I also want to be really good at things, and to me, I find that that kind of drives me a little bit to get better or do things. So, it's a valent reward for me for kind of working hard and getting to that next level. But yeah, there are times when there are things that I've done for ages without monetization,
Hmm.
and when I think about like other ways that I like to engage in leisure, right, like walking on the beach and listening to my music, I haven't figured out how to monetize that yet, you know? Um, the other thing I like to do is I like to make silly videos and take funny pictures. As you may know,
Hmm.
from my social media, I'm always trying to make jokes or do something funny or silly or whatever. I
Yeah.
love doing that. I love going out with a friend or somebody, whoever it may be, or taking pictures of something that I think is funny and just
Hmm.
posting that up, and just
Yeah.
making jokes. A lot of times it's self depreciating humor, but it can be anything.
Yeah.
Um, I, I don't know. I could go on for hours and hours. Like the one time I made the video about I was at the beach here locally, and I buried some money in the beach, and I'm like, this is called Sand Dollar Beach, and I started digging up dollars in the beach, and I'm like, oh, there's a 20, there's a 50 or something, and I think actually I couldn't find my 50, and I was
Oh,
digging for. You could see in the video where I'm like, I can't find this $50 bill. I just buried right here. I found it, but you
oh,
could see
geez.
the moment on my expression. I was like, it's supposed to be here, and it's not here.
Well, that's really
Yeah.
terrible.
But no, I love that stuff. I like to have fun doing things like that. That's how I like to do my leisure time. And I just want to say, you should enjoy spending your leisure time. You shouldn't feel guilty about leisure time because, frankly, I believe we're all entitled to leisure time. I think it's important. If you're Christian, in particular, if you're Catholic, I will tell you the Catholic Church has a whole theology on leisure time. Remember, God rested on the seventh day, kind of a thing, right? And
Yeah.
whatever your religious beliefs are, there's always going to be some sort of value placed on leisure. And that's because I have this radical idea that the entire point of all human enterprise is leisure. That's the purpose of life. That's your 42, if you will. If you've read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, what's the meaning and purpose of life? They
Well,
say it's 42. I say it's leisure.
I mean, pushing it a little bit further, because we talked a little bit about this before we got on here. And Marshall said something that like hinted at what my theology would say is that the purpose of being here is to be yourself. And the only way that
Hmm.
you can really get to know yourself and kind of figure out where you are and what you're doing and all of that stuff, what your preferences are, what your values are, is by having time to focus on that, to really think about that. And so we really need time to kind of rest and reflect. And you can't do that if you're going all the time. It's just not
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. And I
So,
think it's crazy because we live in this society that wants us to monetize our hobbies. They want us to constantly be going. They want us to be accessible for work all the time.
hmm.
They want us to check our email on the weekend. They want us to reply. They want us,
Yeah.
we get guilt tripped if we're not being productive. We get guilt tripped. If we're earning less or live in a smaller house or don't have, all the cars or whatever, if we don't have all the things, all the stuff, then somehow we're
Yeah.
guilt tripped. We're told that
Well,
stuff is the measure and that that's what we should be doing. And so if I play on my flight simulator, what a waste of time and energy. What a waste of money, you know?
well, so I mean, I have a lot of feelings about this because um it's really hard for people when they're chronically ill.
Mhm.
because because basically if you're chronically ill, you have to rest. You have to have
Yeah.
relaxation time because there's just boundaries that you really can't push past. If you push past, you will get sick. You
Yeah.
will have a symptom flare. And so it's something that I've noticed a lot of people in chronic illness spaces will talk about feeling like a real burden and like they're not valuable, and that can create like a lot of feelings of depression and just discouragement and just bad vibes. And so, one of the things that I've actually said a lot on my social media is that everything in nature has periods of dormancy
Mhm.
and activity. And why would you think that you're any different?
Right.
Like, we all have these periods where we need to rest. So then the question is like, how much time do you really need?
Mhm.
And like obviously there's we all have different levels that we need, but how do you find those levels? I mean, how
Mhm.
do you, Marshall, how do you find those levels?
Yeah, I wait until I know I've had enough rest when I am bored and I feel myself thinking, what, I miss work, I miss the work that I do, I miss my
Mhm.
coworkers, and there is nothing I care or want to do around the house. And you might think, well, shoot, for me that's going to take 6 months, but for me it's around 3 to 4 days. That's why I'm a huge proponent of the 3 day weekend. I think if we have the 3 day weekend, by the end of day three we get there, and then when I'm back on day four, I'm going to be way more motivated and energized to go to work.
Mm.
Right now, with the 2 day weekend, Sunday rolls around and I'm like, man, there's so much stuff I still want to do, and I haven't got a chance to do it because I prioritized other things or I
Yeah,
prioritized other people and their needs. Which, by the
yeah,
way, you have to do that when you're a parent, when you're married,
yeah,
when you have friends and
mhm,
relationships. You
yeah,
sometimes have to prioritize other people's needs. It's not about you
yeah,
all the time. And that consumes my leisure time. And then I
hmm,
find that on a 2 day weekend, sometimes 2 days isn't enough for me. But
yeah,
yeah, I reach that point usually around 3 to 4 days. And for me, yeah, that is the little light that goes on that says, okay, ding, you're done. You've had enough leisure. Now go do something productive with yourself.
interesting. Yeah, I don't, for me, I've had like a reworking of this several times over in the past few years. And so I I don't know that I would reach that point that you're talking about.
Uh huh.
Um, just because like I feel like I can always come up with stuff to do. But but then, having my time spoken for,
Hmm.
and I find like we end up doing a lot of chores on the weekend, because
Hmm.
my husband's home. Hopefully, he works a lot of Saturdays actually. So if he's home for 2 days, then oftentimes at least one of those days is
Hmm.
completely devoted to chores that he needs to be around to get done.
Yeah.
And then the other day, like we may be doing some fun things. Maybe we have a date, maybe we are doing like family stuff. And then it's like we could totally use another day
right?
to just like chill, do like nothing really.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so I'm I'm totally for the 3 day weekend. That sounds great.
yeah.
Um, but like, okay, so we've talked about some of the things that we do to relax, and we've talked about, how much relaxation we need. But like, what are some different tips that you might give someone on how to relax?
Don't check your email. Yeah, don't check the work email. Don't check in with work. Don't look at your work. Don't look at the website. Don't interact with those things.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would say avoid people, spaces, and situations that are likely to create problems for you. Now, this is really, really hard for me because the way I soothe my anxiety is by checking. But I've also found that if I give into that behavior, I could check every hour and get the same soothing, comforting, there's nothing going on. But at the end of the day, I'm checking every hour. And
Mm,
sometimes I found that sometimes you have to go where your phone doesn't work anymore. You have to go where there's no internet to really
yeah.
literally unplug because you will check. And if you don't have your phone, you'll be reaching for your phone. I do it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard for me. And I
Mm.
begin to wonder, do I need an herbal remedy? Do I need one of Alexis's herbal teas or something to.
Oh,
She's like, have
I
I got
mean,
something for you?
I, well, you like, okay, so there's so much right there. For one, yes, I do agree. Like cutting off technology is so important and so
Yeah,
helpful to relaxing. And like my husband has the same kind of problem where he will like be like fiddling with his phone and he'll like look at stuff and like we'll do some doom scrolling and we're just like, oh God, this is terrible. Um, so I we actually like will leave our phones in one part of the house that's completely,
mm,
you know, separate, and then we're away from it. So we cut it off that way.
mm,
The other thing is like when I'm doing creative stuff, I don't I don't want to touch my
yeah,
phone.
yeah,
I just like kind of get like really focused into the zone and then that helps me like stay. Um, So I think if you can be like fully immersed in whatever you're doing, that can really help. Because then you're just focused on what you're doing and you don't have space, you don't have mental space to be, you know, playing the anxiety scroll in your head,
right.
which is definitely something that I have experience with. So I can empathize. Um, Another tip that comes to mind since you brought it up is herbalism. There are actually a lot of different plants that can help you in a very gentle way, just like calm down, kind of chill out. And even, I mean, if people are having trouble getting to sleep, obviously, I would not recommend just like randomly trying supplements. I'm not a medical practitioner. Like, you need to talk to your doctor if you're going to like start testing supplements out. But with that in mind, things like something really, really, really gentle is like chamomile. A lot of people drink chamomile. Like you can give it to a child. It's like so, so gentle. Valerian is something that herbalists will recommend for anti-anxiety
Mm.
and especially if you're trying to get to sleep. Passion flower is another one for tea.
Do
Holy
those,
basil, is another one.
can you consume those as a tea or what?
These are all things that you can drink as teas.
Mm.
You could also have them in tincture form for something that's a little more intense. And you can find these like uh in a vitamin supplement herbalist shop. If you have a Sprouts or Trader Joe's, that's probably a bigger Trader Joe's, but definitely Sprouts. Places like New Frontiers, if that's local to you, those places all have those kinds of things. I'm hesitant to name like big online retailers, but that those
Right.
two have them. But you want to make sure that you're getting them from a reputable place. And of course, there's local herbalists. Like if you find, there's you can find local herbalists that will have things that they'll be more potent, excuse
Hmm.
me, and they'll be more freshly made, which makes a difference. So
Yeah.
something to consider.
Yeah. So as we get close to the end, then I want to ask: do you have a good shift when it comes to leisure?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that there's a few different things that stick out to me. One is to make sure that you're enforcing boundaries for leisure. So and we've said it in a few different ways during this episode. So whatever that means for you, not monetizing, turning off the technology, separating it, setting aside time, even if it's like blocking it out in your calendar. Sometimes people have to do that to give themselves that time. Whatever that means, boundaries and saying, I deserve to have some relaxation. I deserve to have some rest and restoration. This is my time to do that. And then following those boundaries and making sure that you actually follow through with your rest because you will be a better person, will be better in your relationships, you will be happier, you will be healthier if you give yourself that time.
Hmm.
What about you?
Well, I don't want people to feel guilty about taking leisure, right? If it's good enough for, God the Father, I suppose, if that's your belief, it should certainly be good enough for you. Here's the deal, right? Uh, People do not toil in the fields or labor in the mines for nothing. They do that to produce a surplus of product that can then be converted into, leisure for someone else. Likewise, people don't spend all their hours hunched over in an office just to make someone else rich, although that's what it's become. But that's not the purpose of it. That's not why our ancestors developed civilization. That's not why they learned how to, raise animals and farm crops and irrigate water and build cities. They did all of this to produce leisure. And the idea is then with leisure, we produce art, we produce philosophy. And with our philosophy and our art, those of us who have the privilege to produce philosophy and art because we enjoy the fruits of other people's labor in the form of leisure time, we
Mm-hmm.
have a sacred obligation to give those things back to the people who produce. That is why, if you are an artist, let's say you produce music or movies, you are producing that specifically for the people who toil, who make your leisure and your production possible. You have an obligation to give back to those people without charge, to give them entertainment and art and other things so they too can be pulled up and enjoy life, even if it's only on their weekends. But to me,
I
that's the purpose of it. No, I think that's the purpose of it.
Yeah, I don't I can't completely agree with how you're seeing with the art and giving that freely because
You could do
yeah,
arts for art's sake, Alexis. You can
yeah,
do it for
yeah,
yourself. Yeah, that's
that's
fine too.
one thing.
But I think
But
it comes full circle.
it depends.
I want the relationship to come full circle though. Yes, you are going to spend time and leisure for yourself.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And you shouldn't feel guilty about that. And no, you don't have to give away everything that you create to everybody else around you.
yeah,
But there are people who enjoy leisure on an industrial scale and who get to do
yeah,
art on an industrial scale. Those are the ones I'm talking about. They have an obligation to give something of that back to the people whose labor and efforts makes their industrial scale art possible. So I'm not talking about the everyday, hey, you get a Saturday for
No,
yourself, you
yeah, no,
know?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I just, I have mixed feelings about that because that does become work. It doesn't,
mm,
it's, I wouldn't say that art like that
right.
is just art. I would say that becomes work. So I can't say that those people shouldn't be getting paid and
Oh, no, no, you have to pay your artists.
yeah, okay.
Because we
I'm
value art,
a
we have to
little,
pay them.
a
But
little
there are
confused there.
people,
Like,
maybe we're
yeah,
talking about two different things here, but there are
yeah,
people who
a little
mass
bit.
consume leisure and they do not return anything to the people who make it possible. And for that,
Yes.
for those, I have an issue with that. But I really
Yeah.
think that ultimately the entire reason why human civilization exists is to produce leisure so that in that leisure time we can connect with the universe and our place in it.
Well,
I
yeah.
really do think that's really what it's about. And those people at the top who are professional, in the ancient world, they would be the priestly class because they're consuming all the leisure and they're engaged full time with the universe around them. I think there is some responsibility for them to give something back to the people, which they do in the form of religious engagement, let's say, or the great artists who create these beautiful paintings or murals or record histories or develop writing or they make music. You know, you're doing that not just for yourself, you're also doing it for the people so they too can have some relief or some outlet or something that enhances the quality of their leisure. So it does not apply to the casual mom or dad or person like us
Yeah.
who gets an occasional stolen Saturday or Sunday afternoon to do what we want. No, absolutely not. It doesn't apply to you. But to people who mass consume leisure, yeah, I think you have a responsibility to give something that you create to the people who make your creation possible. That's just saying thank you, frankly.
Okay.
We're talking on different levels, I'm afraid. You're talking on the individual level. I'm talking about the industrial societal level because my brain sometimes does that. you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, practically, I'm thinking about like how like you, random viewer, are like thinking about this stuff. So I don't know. But it feels like that's like a whole other like I feel like that
Maybe.
could be a whole other episode.
Yeah, it probably could
It's like
be.
a lot of shifting that we're doing all at once. So
Sorry if I broke the podcast, everyone. oh
so
dear. I had a chance to pontificate. What can I do? But anyway, that's my take on it. That's my take on it. I really do think that the purpose is just the leisure because that's how we connect to each other. That's how we connect to the universe. Whatever higher power that's may be, that's where that connection is going to be facilitated. So yeah, leisure's a big, big deal, and we shouldn't
yeah.
be trying to grind and monetize all the time. Sometimes it's okay to just say, you know what? Let's plug in to things that are bigger than me and people that are
Yeah,
around me, or unplug so I can plug into something that matters more. Yeah.
totally.
All right. Well, that's what I've got, Alexis.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, everybody, we want to thank you for watching us today and tuning in. I want to remind you that you can always post comments on our YouTube or Facebook content, and we will come back and answer your questions and respond there. Want to thank you all for being with us today, and I look forward to seeing you on our next Good Shift. Take care. Bye for now.